Hello, everyone. Justin here from the Hangfire Podcast, and welcome to a very special roundtable discussion of the album Hackney Diamonds. I'm very happy to have with me today two friends who you've seen here before on Hangfire. Scott Galupo is a musician and fellow content creator who has an amazing YouTube channel where he features the series Riff Cousins, a series of videos breaking down the guitar genius of the Rolling Stones, and it is highly recommended. Timo Surbeck is also a fellow musician. His fabulous YouTube channel is where you'll find his awesome drum covers and performances. Recently, Timo put up his own cover of Angry and Sweet Sounds of Heaven off Hackney Diamonds, but reimagined if Charlie Watts played them. It's super awesome, and he plans to present the rest of Hackney Diamonds in the same way. So, I'm very pleased to have them here today talk about the new Rolling Stones album that came out last week, Hackney Diamonds, their first album of all original material in 18 years. Scott and Timo, so great to have you here. How are you?
Great. What an exciting time. Thanks for having us.
First, I think we should start off with a very simple, easy question. I'm sure you guys will have no problems speaking on about in a very quick and short way. And the question is this their best album since Tattoo You? Go.
Oh my God.
I tricked you.
I'm going to say no.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Interesting. Why is that?
For the no, I like Voodoo Lounge and Bridges to Babylon. I still like those albums. I think they hold up well. They're both too long, but if they had been this length of 11 or 12 tracks, maybe we would remember them even more fondly. But it's not that I don't like this album. I like it a lot, but I like those albums too, and I'm not so I won't dismiss them as readily as other people will.
Interesting. Timo,
I feel a bit as if Scott had stolen my elevator pitch for something. Yeah, I'm on your side with Voodoo Lounge. It's a really hard thing to top. Yeah, at the same time, that's a really long run of years, eras, sounds, and really different albums. Yeah, it's maybe a cool comparison to compare to something that came out at the beginning of the 80s, because if you go and buy a Voodoo Lounge on vinyl these days, it comes as a 2-record set. Back in the day, that would have been called a double album or something, but this time they reduced it again to just one single record, and that's, from my side, it's a good thing. It's maybe a bit of a too young album for me to rank it with all the legacy that has taken part in all these years.
And you're right. I think those albums on CD, I think they took advantage of the CD technology maybe too much and took up all that space. So I think it's nice they made something succinct. Cool. That was just a fun little way to start things off. We have a lot to get to. For this talk, I thought it'd be fun to rank the songs on the album from least to best favorite from each of us. So we'll each take turns going up our list till we reach the top for our favorite song of Hackney Diamonds. So with that being said, how about we get things started? Scott, you want to get things going with the song at the bottom of your list of your least favorite on Hackney Diamonds?
Can I first just say that just because it's at the bottom doesn't mean I think it's terrible.
You're exactly
all relative to one another.
It was very hard to do this, wasn't it? Wasn't this very hard to do this?
If there's a song that has to occupy the last slot, for me, it's Mess It Up. For me, this one was a gut reaction. I cringed almost right away. Me felt like a little bit like slapped on the jugular. Speaking of Voodoo Lounge being too long, and there's one too many really, 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 reallys in the lyrics for Mick Jagger. And I will say I pay attention a lot to lyrics, and I think I pay more attention to them than Mick does. So there's I think he was very good as a young man in his late 20s and early 30s. probably peaked in his 40s, and now it's like, it used to be like every third line is really good. Now it's like every fifth or every sixth line is really good. And so but I will say I loved hearing Charlie. And I think Ronnie really is enthusiastic about playing it in this style with Mick and Charlie. Like his playing on the song, I was rescues it. He and just throughout the whole album, this is the greatest Ronnie album in a long, long time, since the 80s.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Man, I tell you, Mess It Up is a lot higher on my list. But I love what you're saying, you know, and yeah, I mean, it's a song about a stalker. I don't know what the song is about. Maybe we'll get into it later, but it's amazing. I mean, the Charlie part, I think I got actually misty-eyed listening to Charlie again. I was like, oh man. So, but I hear your point. I mean, it could have been a lot worse, though, Scott. Can't you say that it could have been a lot worse?
Yeah, and somebody pointed out that what's this like? He's renting out his place. This is a ridiculous notion, but I'm certain that I read somewhere that he does in fact rent out the place in Mustique. I'm sure that I read that. So I'm not saying that the story is real, but maybe he imagined it from having a property manager, and like he does rent out one of his residences.
Hopefully, the next song Mick writes is about a property manager. I think that's
He does sing about sitting on a corporate board.
That's true. That's true. Timo, your song that's at the bottom of the list.
Well, for me, yeah, it's let's also put a disclaimer here. It's at the bottom of a list of all favorites. The least favorite. For me, it's driving me too hard. Maybe mostly because it's kind of I like it being like reflecting and reminiscent. It being reminiscent of Tumbling Dice, obviously with the intro riff. Yeah, it's one of the songs that maybe didn't really stuck with me. Like throughout these days, I listened to the album really a lot of times. It's maybe not the most memorable one for me.
Yeah, you're going to see from me that I'm in sort of agreement with you. My number 12 is Living by the Sword.
Mm-hmm.
I'm warming up to it, I have to admit. You know, when I first heard it, I was like, I don't know about this. I didn't feel like it had a center for me. So I do like the choruses. I think they're very catchy. I'm having trouble hearing Wyman, which is a huge shame for me. I don't know. I haven't found, frankly, or actually, funnily enough, I was trying to listen to all of these songs on the best equipment I have, which is not that great. But then I flipped it on the Alexa speaker, and then some of these songs sounded even better, like Living by the Sword. I could actually hear, Wyman through here. But my point is, I think the lyrics are kind of soft, and I don't know. I was disappointed that it wasn't more. So yeah. So again, I liked it, but it wasn't higher on my list.
Just a small thing on you not hearing Wyman. For me, I kind of I had the feeling of like listening to a song that they would put out in the early 80s or something, because it was really like this thumping sound of Wyman came through. He's always like emphasizing all the fourths, which is really a cool thing, and like almost a parallel to all the double bassists. Kind of a similar sound. So that's something that actually came through. Yeah, and I really noticed it.
I thought that would sound like I'm Gonna Drive. Do you remember that B-side?
Oh yeah, from Voodoo Lounge.
Yeah. To me, it sounded like that. It's kind of, which is I like that song, but that kind of driving rock in the key of E, and Nick's vocal delivery reminded me. It was kind of similar too. But yeah, the lyrics. You remember he talked about how he would write in prose. He would he sees lyric writers struggling with rhymes, and what his workaround was to write in prose and rhyme it all later. And I don't necessarily believe that he does that all the time, because to me, some of these rhymes are so obvious that it's like you did not give that 1 second worth of thought. That rhyme occurred to you and you just ran.
Yeah, this song in particular, I mean, I was actually impressed with a lot of spots in the album of the lyrics, and I think I know why that is now. I'll get to that later. But this song was one in particular where I go, there's the Mick I remember, you know, or it's like, there he is again, you know, and so it was all kind of lackluster to me.
Can I shortly put up a question for this song? I have no idea if you guys know that. So there's this really weird credit for Will Wyman playing drums on that track. I have a suspicion it's him playing the hi-hat on the intro, and maybe even him counting off the song. I have no idea if you know anything about it. It's just a suspicion I have, I guess.
I didn't even notice that.
Because I know for 100% that that's not Charlie Watts' hi-hat playing, and not
or his voice. That's not his voice.
No, he will never do that.
No, he would never do that. People are so confident online that it's him. Like, no, he would never do that.
No, my guess would be that this is the Wyman on drums part.
Good cash.
Yeah, maybe there's something that somebody could like clarify in the comments later.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Nobody's gonna clarify that in the comments because nobody else is gonna notice that.
Yeah.
Only you are gonna notice that. To your credit.
That's so interesting. Good catch, Timo. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah, I love that.
That didn't happen for a really long time. He played some percussion and stuff earlier on, but yeah.
There's a weird writing credit on Apple Music. I just have not listened to this vinyl copy. I've only streamed it. And there's a writing credit on one of the songs. It's got to be some kind of a mistake. You guys keep talking. Somebody out there will also notice this. I'm going to tell you, it's a woman's name. Yeah, it's bizarre.
I found the credits to be all over the place, even within the different streaming sites. I know that Tidal had way off credits, and then the credits on Apple was off. And so, yeah, I don't find it to be very consistent.
Wow. How hard could it be?
I know. Exactly. Yeah, so while you're looking for that, well, I guess Scott, you're technically next for number 11. I'll put
I can't find it right now, and it might have been corrected since I saw, but it was a woman's name. I looked her up on Google. I have no idea how that happened, but so my number 11 is Rolling Stone Blues, which I think was a great idea, maybe, but the execution of it felt kind of superfluous. Like, I've heard them do this before as Catfish Blues, Still a Fool, whatever. I didn't necessarily need to hear it again. It felt like a couple times Keith was going to the 4 chord when he wasn't supposed to, which he also did Still a Fool, Blue and Lonesome, which is, it's kind of charming when he does that. But when you're the only guitar player on the song. And I also missed, out of the original Muddy Waters version of it, has a slightly different phrasing. Instead of just a boom, boom, boom. Muddy sometimes plays it like bum, 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 and I miss that a lot. But I don't know if they ever did it that way. Like in the bootleg recordings we've heard, they've always kind of done it in this straight ahead beat. But this one I wanted to as soon as I heard that it was on here, I was like, that's going to be good. And then I was like, it's okay.
All I can say is, Scott, I can't wait to hear the rest of your list. At this point now, this is unbelievable. It's shocking. But no, I love that. Timo, what you got there?
I got Depending on You. I'm trying to think of the reason. But as I said, my threshold is really, I wouldn't kick off any of the songs really from the album, to be honest. But yeah, that's next to my ranking.
Yeah, that's track 3 right at the top. And, in a weird way, it's almost like the Stones are ranking the songs in a way, aren't they? By the way, they sequence them in a way, at least how they want you to experience the song. So it's funny.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
Well, it's maybe that plus like making like a tension curve for the vinyl record at the same time, which I think they made a really, really great job. Because then if you go to the B side, it starts off with Mess It Up, which is again like really punching in your face. It's a bit of the same feeling as if you'd put up side D of X on the Main Street, and there you get All Down the Line, which is like this rocker thingy which gets you out of this like melancholic ballad mode, and it's like what do they call it? Hit and run or.
Yeah, you're right. It's a nice palate cleanser. They sequence it brilliantly. My 11 is My 11 is Driving Me Too Hard, which I understand stems from. It's easy, Scott.
You guys are gonna laugh at my list. If you don't know.
Well, see, I understand, and I forgot about this, that this may have come from the Around the Blue and Lonesome sessions around 2015. Someone spotted the song Driving Me Too Hard on the written set list, or was written in the song list of what they were working on in that period. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, with that being said, I think I would have loved the song a bit more if perhaps we would have gotten the Charlie version, because this song is such which I didn't really realize till later, until someone else brought up, it's a very, talk about riff cousins, it's a riff cousin-ish of Tumbling Dice, that I didn't realize that till much later. I'm like, holy shit, it is. And so that clicked for me, because it does seem a little sterile without Charlie for me. I miss what he brings to it, at least what I'm hearing, and I'm very much projecting where I want the song to go, which is not how things work. It is what it is. But with that said, I thought that the saving grace was the lyric content. I was very much enjoying the introspectiveness of the song, because it got me to be introspective, which doesn't happen too often in Stones music, to be introspective and to actually look inward and stuff like that. So
you're talking lyrics now.
Yeah, the lyrics.
Okay. I see.
Yeah, so on that level, I very much enjoyed the song. And again, don't hate it. I don't hate any of these songs just because they're the bottom. It's just which ones would I play the most?
You guys notice a habit, just as an aside here, there's a habit of Mick that it's been going on for a long, long while, but it started annoying me about 20 years ago. What got us in the doorway, where as a song is approaching its coda, last 30 to 45 seconds, he ad-libs vocals all the way.
Even during a verse, you're saying?
On the days of like a guitar solo taking like rocks off. There's no more vocals. It's just music. He is incapable of letting a song breathe for the last 20 seconds. He has to always be ad-libbing. And it drives me nuts. And it really started to drive me nuts in the Being Mick documentary, when you only heard him in the isolation booth cutting a vocal track. And I saw him do that. And it's like, dude, stop. I know what you're solo. You don't have to sing over an entire track. You just don't.
Right.
Well, where was the genesis of that, you suppose? Because I think whenever I hear people enjoying the ad-lib thing that he does, people always like to tie it back to something like Tumbling Dice, where he kind of gives that extra outro. So was that the beginnings of all that?
I don't know. To me, it's Steel Wheels. That's when I really, looking back, the end of Sad, 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 the end of Mixed Emotions, the end of Hearts for Sale. You hear, I don't need no doctor, I need a deputation. And blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, the lyric portion of the song is over now. You can chill out.
Yeah, I know what you mean, Scott. I totally hear you. Yeah, he has that problem a lot where he just doesn't leave the space enough, especially when you've got the rest of the band there waiting to fill it.
You're in the Rolling Stones. Alert. Newsflash.
That's hilarious. Okay, I think we're up to number 10, aren't we? So Scott, give us your number 10.
Yeah, I think you guys are gonna hate this too, but
Is Rocks Off on this list? Is that number 10 for you? Rocks Off?
no. Imagine trying to do that on Exile, but that would be painful.
We should do that.
That it's too painful. Too painful. It'd be like choosing. Number 10 is Bite My Hem. Again, I love the idea. I love the spirit of the track. I think it sounds fantastic. Like the whole album, the guitars are thick and creamy and textured. Love the sound of the guitars. Roddy is great on this track. It sounds like a Some Girls solo. The way he played, which I have not heard from him on a Stones record in a long, long time. Like this great Ronnie album. I've not heard him just let it rip in this way. But again, the lyric, it's just awful.
A lot of breakup songs, right?
But it sounds so I think he thinks like, well, there's certain songs that are unserious by their nature. They're supposed to be funny or lighthearted, so I don't really have to try with the lyrics. I can go settle for a lyric like, life can be a riot, and I can be the pilot, provided that it's private. What? You're going to fly private? Is that, it's, that some, let's compare to Some Girls. The lyrics of Respectable and When the Whip Comes Down are fantastic. Those are great lyrics.
Or Shattered.
Shattered. Yeah. So don't, just because it's a punk rock song, it's supposed to sound angry, it doesn't mean that you just start talking about dogs and sharks.
Yeah, I thought I was getting flashbacks of Sparks Will Fly with the
Sharks Will Fly. I love that song, so I will forgive him that line, but that is a terrible, terrible line. And then a shark comes back.
Here's one, Scott. If you had to choose one song to have to listen for the rest of your life, Sparks Will Fly or Rolling Stone Blues?
Oh, Sparks Will Fly. I love Sparks Will Fly.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know, folks. Good night.
Roll the credits.
Arlen Watts on Sparks Will Fly. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. No, you're right. You're exactly right.
I could just listen to that drum track alone for the rest of my life. I would like to have Charlie Watts in my head all day. Like walking down the street, I would like to hear him.
You do? You do too?
It's like, it's so soothing and perfect. It's something at the center of the earth that he pulls out magnetically and makes everything right with the poles on the earth. You know?
Bravo, Scott. That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
He would die hearing that, right?
We would just watch, right? I mean,
number 10, Timo, for you is
Live by the Sword. Yeah, I'm a bit on the same track as for the things that you said, Justin. Maybe something that we didn't discuss yet is that's the only track produced by Don Was, right? On the album.
It says, as I said, the drums were produced, wasn't it? That the drums were produced, not necessarily all of the track. Because I mean, at least I made it seem to be that way on the credits. Because the whole album does say it's produced by Andrew Watt. It doesn't say produced by Andrew Watt with an asterisk. Don Was on that.
Okay, yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, so I guess maybe he had a hand in massaging the song for those when the sessions were going for that album or that song at the time, and they kept that arrangement. But who knows, whatever other changes they did to the drum track. I forget which one. Mick said that they took one of these Charlie songs and they really redesigned them. I don't know if that was Mess It Up or Living by the Sword, but I would guess it was probably Living by the Sword. But no, yeah, Don Was. This is his. But yeah, you both have great things to say about Don Was and the drum sound, don't you?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I wouldn't necessarily go so far and say I can hear much of a real big difference in terms of drum sound between the two Charlie tracks. That's maybe something to add from my point of view here. But yeah, I mean, but on the other hand, like producing doesn't mean necessarily designing drum recording technique or drum mixing. So it's maybe always like a thing of how much does like a recording engineer have to say sound wise, and how much is it the producer? Is the producer more like with an advanced, I don't know, arranger and like musicians pusher or something?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I want to make sure. Yes, his drums recorded and produced by Don Was. I just want to. That's tricky. I don't know. I mean, I'm
Senior, right? Actually,
Do you guys remember Mick Jagger producing a track for Living Color, Glamour Boys? Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
Are you guys that? So you remember Living Color, right? Cult
Yeah.
Personality. They opened for the Stones in 1989, and Mick was very tight with them. He had asked Doug Wimbish to replace Wyman, the bassist for Living Color. But Vernon Reid, the guitarist for Living Color, talks about Mick producing that track and saying that the snare drum doesn't sound right. And Mick went in there and mic'd it a different way and improved the drum sound.
what?
So Vernon Reid's like, that guy, he knows what he's doing.
Oh yeah.
He might not know it, but he knows what he's doing.
That is super cool. That reminds me of a story that you guys, if you haven't seen already, but anyone who's watching, Kenny Aronoff, the great drummer, told a story about how he joined them on a session to Bridges of Babylon. Do you remember the story, Scott? And as he was playing percussion, I believe, on the track, he was realizing that he was playing and having fun going through the session. All of a sudden, Mick comes to him and says, "Oh, great job, but do me a favor, stay out of the way of Charlie's hi-hat."
Yeah.
And Kenny was blown away by like, wow. Not because it's like, oh, how dare
He wasn't offended.
No, he was not offended. In fact, he was amazed that he saw that the lead singer of a band has the details so down that he knows what he needs, and B, what the music needs.
Wow.
Charlie Watts' hi-hat right there, and just don't get in the way of it. So I always love that story.
Wow, so cool.
Yeah.
I heard that for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my number 10 is exactly with you, Scott. Bite My Head Off is where I'm placing this one as well. I'm enjoying the spirit of it. Like you said, I am enjoying the fun aspect. How can you not? I mean, it's irresistible how fun it is. But that's all it is for me. It's just a nice fun track. It's so great to hear Paul McCartney on there. I love his little solo,
Cool.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super cool. It's just so lovable and so great. And so I love the track, but there are other tracks I would listen to a bit more than that one. So
and isn't it Mick there like impersonating a Liverpool accent? It's like, come on, Paul, let's hear something.
After the great bass part already passed by, then he says, "Let's hear some bass." He just rest.
Well, that's a great point, Timo. And in fact, that's something I noted elsewhere. But in general, is this the most English Mick we've gotten in a long time in one album? I mean, I haven't heard this much of the English accent in general that isn't, an act since like, Where the Boys All Go, since that, it's,
"Hey girls, what you doing tonight?"
do you want to dance or do you want to fly? It's like it was shocking to hear all this English sound coming through, and it was kind of welcome, actually. Okay, moving on to number 9.
Yeah.
Scott, let us know.
It's the perfect segue because my number 9 is Whole Wide World. And it is the Cockney accent. For me, again, this is gut reaction. I cringed. Like, the dreary streets of London never promise much. I'm like, I get, make it always a character. I do not demand authenticity. I think authenticity is a red herring. It's overrated. There's nothing authentic about Mick Jagger. There never has been. The greatness of Mick Jagger is that he is manneristic and can inhabit different characters. That's what makes him great. But I don't like this character. I don't believe it. I mean, I don't have to believe it, but he just doesn't pull it off. I will say this. For whatever, I've been working on the songs on guitar. This is the song that I'll sit around and just pick up and play. For whatever reason, there's a weird E flat to G minor, which is a very unusual move for them. And I think that Keith does play it. I don't think that he wrote it. But I do think that a lot of these songs were initiated by Mick but Keith really did get involved in trying to make them better, as Mick has indicated. I think he did the same with Mess It Up. I'm not sure that Mick would have written it in that Beast of Burden, Almost Hear You Sigh kind of a move that the Mess It Up riff is. That, you know what I'm talking about? Those chords in verse. Da-na-na-ba is kind of a Beast of Burden. I don't know if Mick wrote it that way. It might have been Keith.
Da-da-da-ba.
Da-da-da-da-da-da. And so I do think Keith got involved in redesigning what Mick had written. This is total speculation on my part.
Well, it's funny you say that because I think it was in the Rolling Stone issue that came out about a month ago. Nice spread about the album. I believe it was there where Mick or someone shared that, you know, even on a night out after them being busy on a particular evening or something, not in the studio, that Keith would say, "Oh, actually, I'm going back tomorrow early morning to the studio work on this," or I think he maybe even going back tonight. But the point was, you know, Mick or whoever was reporting this was surprised that Keith was this devoted and this, you know, on top of things that he wanted to go back and continue working on it. So maybe he was enjoying working with Andrew Watt or something.
I think what held up this album was him not getting enough of his ideas accepted by Mick. In your great interview, Justin, with Anthony DeCurtis, great job on that, by the way.
Thank you.
He was in the studio with Keith for Cross-Eyed Heart and was listening to what they were working on. So I know there's more in there that is not, for whatever reason, is not getting past Mick's threshold. And if there's anything I'm disappointed about in the album, it's that. There's not enough Love Is Strong, Sparks Will Fly,
Right.
Mixed Emotions. These songs that Keith starts, Mick finishes. For whatever reason.
I feel the same way. Mm-hmm.
But I do think that this time around, he's like, all right, if we're not going to get my songs on, then at least I'm going to get in there and put my mark on them in a way that he did not with A Bigger Bag.
Right. No, I and this kind of bleeds in. I don't want to get into this quite now, but I know exactly what you're saying because I also had issues with finding Keith in the usual spots.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of questions about how the guitars are designed on this album, which I think is what's also tripping me up because there's such a sandwiched sound with the guitars. You know, it's hard. It's hard to discern who's who and where's where, especially since Andrew Watt switched the positioning of who's on what side.
And also he's also playing guitar parts at some of the songs, and I really have a hard time like knowing for sure, is this Ronnie Wood part or is it maybe
Mick? Where's Mick? I'm having a hard time. Only on Angry, the very, very beginning, you can tell when that's Mick.
Yeah.
But later, I can't always tell when it's Mick.
Sure.
Yeah.
I have the same problem actually.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. If we can move on, I think we're still at number 9. Timo, did you give your number 9?
Dreamy Skies. Yeah. Well, yeah, it hurts a bit to say. We're moving up the list, actually. No, I really like the track. It's very, very reminiscent of like the 70s country stuff, like the more early 70s actually. So this is, from my point of view, heavily Exile, Main Street influenced.
Yeah, I love that you could finally hear the room in that recording. You know, it was a nice breather from the very intense sound, right?
I tend to like the lyrics even, but yeah, I maybe might have like a bit of a bonus and not being a native English speaker. Maybe not so keen on analyzing lyrics and stuff, but I dug that one pretty much. So,
did you guys see in Mojo magazine that Steve Jordan, who does not appear based on that interview to really have been fully bought in on the direction the project took with Andrew Watt? You saw that?
I've not yet read it. I'm still wanting to get a hard copy of it.
My impression is that he thought he was going to be the guy who helped the Glimmer Twins make an album.
all right.
And I think a lot of the stuff that he and Keith worked on was what was left behind. But not to get bogged down in that topic, he does love Dreamy Skies. It's like that's what the album would have sounded more like that.
Because speaking of that, I think if you like get into Steve Jordan, you wouldn't necessarily expect him being a big country guy at all. But it's actually not true, because if I don't know if you know this album by Betty Levette, it's all Jordan for records even. It's that's a hell of an R&B or soul record, and there are some really like country like cuts on there, which I really like.
Yeah, for as heavy hitter as he is, he likes songs.
Oh yeah.
Remember, like John Bonham, John Paul Jones used to talk about John Bonham liking Joan Baez and Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Like, you wouldn't expect these guys who are thunderous drummers to like, but he does.
Charlie Watts liking Friends.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, different influences, which you wouldn't expect. Actually, that's something really cool.
Steve Jordan is awesome.
Yeah, he sure is. Wow.
My number 9 is Get Close. In fact, I love the guitars, I love the vibe, but it doesn't stick for me for some reason, and I don't know why I can't figure this out, because I love the energy of it so much, and it's undeniable that there's an energy there. But I also can't help but wonder like where it fits musically with the Stones. Like not that I need it to have a callback or a reference point, but maybe that I can't put it anywhere. Maybe that is a good sign. It's a new space for them. But at the same time, it made me a little skeptical, this song, for some reason, which is a weird reaction to have for a song. But mixed performances is really great, and I love the intro of that riff by Keith. That is very interesting, and luckily that's what makes me lean into the song. So yeah, that's where I put Get Close. It's sort of around that.
Short of getting access to the vaults, nobody will convince me that there aren't 10, 20, or 30 more of those sitting in there.
Right.
And Nick's just like, nope, I want to write on my own.
Well,
I like to write on my own.
What do you guys make of that? Is that song a Keith riff that Mick really just took over, or is that completely a Mick song that Keith said, "Hey, I got a riff for this"?
I think it was a Keith generated idea.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, somewhere Mick didn't know what to do with it for a little while until he figured out what he calls the top line, which I'm guessing is the chorus, what he was able to sing. Because that's the thing with Keith, what he comes up with on its own, I don't think you can tell this is obviously the verse or the chorus. That's what frustrates Mick.
Enter Main Offender.
Yes. It's Steve Jordan has this eternal inner clock of patience where he'll wait. He'll stay up all night. And but to me, that's worth waiting for, in my opinion. Otherwise, you just get formulaic songs they're perfectly fine, but everybody says Mick has written "Sympathy for the Devil," "Miss You," and "Brown Sugar" on his own. It's like, yeah, I get that, but that was a long, long time ago. And how many of those has he written on his own in the last 40 to 50 years?
Right. Yeah, I think some balance would have been a bit more welcome, on something like this, So this album definitely has a vibe of it. It's an experiment,
Right.
See if we do it like this, And it's nice that it worked, but it's bad that it worked. Because Mick will just say, "I told you."
But I'll get to that later. I do think that it ultimately did work.
Oh, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear
ways that I expected. I did not expect that it would. But
well, number 8, Scott, up to you now.
Tell me straight. And this might be ironic. You're like, well, you're asking for Keith's ideas. Here's one. And it's like, yeah, I kind of like his. The thing is that he's been writing or trying to write a song around that chord for a long time. There's a Some Girls outtake called Golden Caddy. Golden Caddy, where he's fiddling with that chord. And it popped up in the Wild Horses on Stripped. So he's been messing with that for a long, long time. And it's like, yeah, it's a cool chord, but I don't know if it's enough. Then the chorus just kind of, and here I'm validating Mick's complaint. The chorus doesn't really go anywhere interesting. You know, I compare it to a song like You Got It Made that got left off Lounge.
I love that song.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing song. I cannot believe that it never has seen the light of day. That has a great chorus.
And you guys have heard the outtake of Keith and Ronnie working on the harmonies for that song.
Oh, yes. Yes. It's hilarious.
I got to send it to you, Timo. I don't know if you heard it, but it's them trying to nail down the harmony. And they're just struggling and having fun. And maybe they're drinking. I don't know. But it's it's like the Three Stooges or something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No, I hear you. I actually, nevertheless, even with its problems, I still rated that song very strongly. Tell Me Straight.
And might this be a short question? So, might this be the shortest Rolling Stones ballad ever to be released? Because I think it's even under 3 minutes, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there's no bridge.
Yeah,
and there doesn't always need to be a bridge. Like
right.
It's not Lumen and Brown Sugar don't have bridges.
Right.
I don't think anybody would argue that they lack anything.
But it's a really ballsy thing to do on a ballad, in my opinion. But it's also really cool. It's like this melancholic mood. It's very understated and short, actually. But it gets to the point, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, whenever I play that song, I'm surprised that it's over. Like, oh, we're done, and
right,
you know, and in a way, some of the other songs are like that. I mean, the album, depending on how you feel about it, kind of moves the same way. Like, oh, we're ready, we're out, we're done. You know, okay, number 8, continuing. Timo, what do you got?
Rolling Stone Blues. Maybe just because it's, you know, I obviously I cannot say anything about the composition, obviously. I mean, I just collected the...
Oh, yeah. There it is.
Collection, Blues Almanac. I did a funny experiment on that. I finished listening to Hackney Diamonds and then immediately put like the first song, which they obviously chose to be Rolling Stone Blues by Muddy Waters on this compilation.
I didn't know that was on vinyl.
Yeah, there is. It's not even that expensive, actually. I could really recommend it from a quality standpoint. It's really well mastered and pressed. That's a cool thing. I just love about it that they probably try to match like the traditional old school type of recording technique you would expect or have. Well, there wasn't anything else in the time of Muddy Waters recording this song, but they really made a great job at that, and they used like a really great harp mic. I saw that on a shot of Keith and Mick playing that song in his studio. I also love the guitar sound. I think that's an acoustic guitar. I'm like,
yeah. Andrew Watt bought that guitar. He bought that guitar. Andrew Watt bought that guitar for Keith to use.
Wow. Okay.
20, something like that.
Is it a semi-hollow, Scott?
I think it's an acoustic guitar. It's like a Gibson L. Somebody will know L20. It's an old.
Yeah. It sounds really brassy, and it's just so cool. I know for sure that they drove up those tubes in the the mic preamps like crazy, and I love that sound and yeah, it's a fine, great performance. But yeah, it's for me like a perfect closing statement of rounding off of an album after as thunderous sweet sounds of heaven, obviously. Yeah.
Well. Speaking of Sweet Sounds of Heaven, that is my number 8. Is where I'd put Sweet Sounds of Heaven. Is right
Oh, wow.
on this spot. I know it's very surprising. I was surprised myself that I would place this here because it has all the makings of, a fan favorite, and it's not like I can't see why, but and for some reason, it's wonderful. The great performance by Mick. I love Lady Gaga on it. Stevie Wonder's a nice touch. Keith is kind of missing. It's another Ronnie MVP in the guitar department situation where he's really dominating at least that part. But no one's really caring about the guitars anyway on this track. But the live version they just put out yesterday, the full version of the performance from New York was mind-blowing and beautiful. So that I think I can see the song be in this new Stones era, maybe the new Gimme Shelter or You Can't Always Get What You Want or Midnight Rambler of the set, because it's quite a build. It's quite a jam in a different way. It's got a vocal duet situation going on, like that would require someone like a Sasha, or if Chanel is now part of the group, to take.
Oh, I hope so. Yeah.
I know. I really like her.
Great.
Yeah, I do too. So like aside from that, I mean, it's not a song that I would find myself listening to often, but I will say that I think the song for me really takes off right after the first ending, and it goes into that second extra extended jam thing. I think that's a wonderful moment that is just like, there's something real. There's something that's just happening on the spot, and it's just magical to me. So, yeah, a lot of great things to love about it, but I kind of put the song somewhere. So, yeah.
It's got like this deep cut vibe, doesn't it? And they took the right decision, in my opinion, to put it onto the final album without like stripping off the ending, the jam part, basically.
Yeah, totally. And like I mentioned before, it's wonderfully sequenced, the whole album, and it's right in a great spot. Some people would like to put it at the end, but I don't know. I think the coda of this Rolling Stone blues is perfectly fine.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, totally.
Works great. Yeah, it does. Sure does.
Great. Well, we're moving forward here. Let's go with number 7. Scott, what do you got?
My it is Live by the Sword, which I criticized earlier for the lyrics, but I do. I love the sound of it. Again, it sounds like I'm going to drive the Voodoo Lounge B-side, and I like that. I like all the B-sides of Voodoo Lounge, The Storm and Jump on Top of Me. And it's just nice to hear Charlie and Bill. You do have to strain to hear Bill, but even if you're not hearing it subconsciously, I feel like I'm sensing that he's there. Just in the way because he's playing, even if you can't hear it very prominently, it's like there are these gulps and bounces.
Yeah, right.
I think that I can feel it, even if I'm not hearing it consciously. I can feel it. Like somebody it's a poster on It's Only Rock and Roll, compared or brought up a quote of somebody saying of Thelonious Monk that it's like he plays with it's like he's got no fingers when he plays. And Wyman is like that sometimes. It's kind of soft. It's not hard like Darryl. Darryl was a very hard player and percussive, whereas Bill just has these little, like I call gulps, thumps, and bounces.
It's really afraid for me hearing those two names, Bill Wyman and Thelonious Monk, in the same sentence. But it's a cool comparison, actually. Yeah. I can see.
So I enjoy that a lot.
Yeah, it's.
By the way,
oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Just shortly, Elton John is playing piano on that track, right?
Yes.
Like adding to this kind of boogie sound sauce. That's really like it is in the sound DNA of basically all the three of these guys. Charlie Watts, Bill Wyman, Elton John. All from maybe in that regard come from the same sound. Yeah, that's really like a glue that sticks them together. It's this spooky.
Elton's playing on the bridge is really cool. It's coming E, C sharp minor. The thing that Belden plays throughout there is like really nice line. Like just the verses are rock, bluesy rock, and then the bridge gets halftime feel.
Right.
That
yeah.
D to C sharp minor. It's got a weird change, but Elton, he glues it together.
Yeah, no, I loved his input on it. It added a nice
yeah.
retro vibe to it all. And
Retro, yeah.
yeah, especially when he's kind of doing that kind of those honky-tonk-ish kind of runs through the outro and stuff. But yeah, it's a very familiar sound. Someone on the channel who's a consistent commenter, his name is Jir. I hope I'm saying his name right, Jir maybe. But he said of the song that it reminds him of something that could have come off the album It's Only Rock and Roll. So very 70s. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I like hearing that. It's an interesting way of, so that helped me get into the song more. And again, I'm warming up to all these songs as we go. Right? Like you can totally hear that kind of sound of that era. Okay, moving on. Timo, what do you got? Number 7.
My number 7 is Angry, actually. Maybe big. Yeah. Well, I can say 100 good things about it, but yeah, I think one of you two guys, maybe I think it was Scott, said that it's like a mixture of guitar sounds, where you cannot really immediately spot the Keith sound in it, and that's maybe the biggest disadvantage, if you want to call it like that. That I like the biggest problem I have with this song. But otherwise, yeah, it's a great rocker. But
yeah, I'm with you because it's sort of part of what it's like to listen to Stones music is to pick everyone out and go, oh, there he is and there they are, and to focus and to enjoy. And when you can't really decipher, it becomes a little distracting, and so you have to kind of park all that, which is tough to do.
Have you guys looked at people playing Angry on YouTube, and they're all focused on just the open G part, and that's not all that's there.
Right.
There's one guy, I think he's a Frenchman, Jeremy Barres, Bares. He's doing amazing stuff. He's gonna put me out of business on YouTube. But he picked out that Keith is playing with a capo on the 7th fret, and he's doing Midnight Rambler Out of Control, and the way he plays Out of Control live. He's doing those things on there. Very hard to hear on the record. But if you were to just play the open G riff of Angry, it wouldn't sound. It's a standard tuning capo 7 with open G, probably 2 open G guitars, and all that blended together is giving you the whole picture.
Well, I was shocked that when they played it the other night last week at the Racket Club for the album launch, that Keith was the only main, well, him and Ronnie obviously, but Mick A didn't have the guitar with him, and he played it in the standard tuning, but no capo.
Yeah, it was also a half step down. It was in,
right.
So it would have been
B flat.
Yes. Yeah. And I think Daryl tunes his low E to E flat. So when you're hearing an E chord, it's like a low E flat, which I wish I could have been in the room to hear it, because it must have been like you can feel it in your dental fillings kind of thing.
And that would have been the only reason to be in that room, right? Just to listen to that low note and then leave. And just go, that's enough. I heard what I heard.
Yeah. Somebody who was standing right next to the stage, that the guitars sounded really good. Like, and this is my complaint about them live in stadiums now, is they're playing with very small rigs and just not moving enough air. But in that room, it was beautiful. That's all you needed for that room.
Also, what you're saying is that small kind of gear, just small amps, and then use a lot of like PA amplification and stuff.
It's not there. Because PAs have gotten so good, they have 2 twins, and it's like that's all you need. Technically, I think I get that, but it doesn't sound.
Well, I saw the band live last year in Berlin in this really like small arena stage outside.
Oh yeah, that place looks like the Hollywood Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the small version of Hollywood Bowl in Berlin, actually. They maybe didn't quite get the acoustics of the stage quite right, because my parents and I, we were that's our third Rolling Stones concert actually together.
Cool.
And we were like almost at the top of the theater.
Yeah.
And the guitars were just. I forgot to bring my professional ear protection. It was almost.
Oh, they'll cut your head off. They cut your head off. Oh,
It's such a shame you weren't able to like recognize Keith's sound, and that's a shame.
so brittle. Part of it might be that he is not hearing that frequency anymore.
Ah, right.
I mean, the dude is old, and your hearing goes, and that top end that's cutting our heads off.
Maybe he has the Rudy Van Gelder problem. He used to when he was in like his late 70s and 80s, remaster all of the Blue Note jazz records album stuff, and it was all too brittle.
Wow,
I can maybe listen to that when my hearing is also 80 years old.
Yeah,
but earlier it would work.
When they started to do a Sympathy for the Devil live, Keith and Ronnie, it's like over the chorus.
Yes,
and they're expecting that to have a lot of power, but it's just like twin guitars past the point of breakup. It's like, oh, that sucks.
So you actually think they would crank their amps too much, and it's not like a problem of front of house mixing?
I think that it is not. Well, yes, it is front of house that they're turning up those moments that are supposed to be louder, but there's not enough air there to turn. Not moving enough air.
Ah, right. Okay.
Whereas in Steel Wheels, that tour, he had a special, like 100-watt head.
Yeah.
Just for his solos. He had a Marshall for a while and a Soldano that Eric Clapton had recommended to him.
Mm-hmm.
His lead sound and Steel Wheels, that tour was awesome.
Yeah.
I'm probably like one of 3 people on the planet who thinks that. But I'll take that. They're not moving enough air. They used to have boogie cabinets. Remember back in 80, 81, 82, big half-stack boogie cabinets. And now you don't technically need that anymore.
Mm.
But yeah, we've talked about this before, and I'm with you because the biggest thing that I miss at the live shows is you be able to tell between Keith and Ronnie. Now they just sound like one guitar player. They're both playing out of the same situation, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And so like I was just by chance listening to Bridges to Babylon live stuff last night. It was just so nice to be able to hear the difference between the 2 guitar players on stage. It makes it a little bit more fun to have that textures, in different ways in the sound. Now it just sounds like I'm listening to everything in a mono way, and it's limiting.
Right.
Okay, so moving on to number 7, Timo, you gave.
Wait, what was your 6? Or Seth, you 7.
My 7. My 7 is Dreamy Skies, in fact. I think it's, musically gorgeous. You're hearing Ronnie on the dobro and Keith on those, the open G riffs. They're all kind of textbook stuff for open G licks for Keith. It's all that stuff that he usually does. So that's nice. I like Mick's tender vocal. I think that's a nice touch to it, but it's lovely stuff. Unfortunately, I find I'm kind of wanting to switch now. I think I would put Sweet Sounds of Heaven in this spot and switch it with Dreamy Skies, because I do find that the lyrics on Dreamy Skies to be a little soft. I mean, who has I'm being picky here, but who has a satellite phone? Right? Yeah. Well,
what Mick will write about now. If he's not writing about girls, heartbreak, he does this is the same topic as Hideaway from Goddess in the Doorway.
Right.
He needs to hide away.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, well, you can totally see him write this with his acoustic guitar on his island after a tour, after he's done with all this stuff, and okay, and that's where this comes from. So I get it. But no, yeah, I mean, it's hard to not love the song, considering he's got all the organic, natural flavors of the Rolling Stones, all in one place. So for that, I think it's very valuable. But I wish the lyrical content was just slightly a bit more interesting. But I think people can relate to it, so that's a win-win, I guess. Yeah. So that being said, how about number 6?
My six is angry, which we've just talked about. I will note, not so we don't have to belabor it, but you'll notice that he sings that it hasn't rained for a month. The river runs dry. It hasn't rained for a month, but in the chorus, he hears the rain beating on his window pane. So, again, who cares? I don't want to keep focusing on lyrics, but you had 18 years to craft some lyrics.
To take some pills and go to Brazil.
That line is actually funny. I like that one.
Me too. I love that line. It implies what we think it implies, right?
Yes. Which
I don't actually. You maybe need to explain the reference.
Well, when you're a certain age as a man, Timo, you might need certain kind of help.
I see.
And he's
no one would admit to that, which is why I like the line.
Exactly. And he's admitting that he has excursions in exotic places like Brazil, which he has.
Yeah, like all these Swiss guys flying to Thailand. I see. Okay.
His campaign in Brazil in the late 90s.
Right. So how about that for a rhyme that was far-fetched? Scott, you got to give him points for that rhyme.
I initially thought that he was saying the British English phrase, "I'm taking the piss." Which was like making fun of somebody or cracking a joke, right? But I think it is pills. But the way he sings it, I thought it was, I'm taking the piss. But anyway, it's a good song, but it's like, to me, it's Mick, what Keith in his memoir would call imitation ripping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like Ivy Wild. It's Mick doing Keith.
Oh, I see. Right. Oh, in the guitar department, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Right. No, I hear you. I think it's a damn catchy song. But yeah, we'll get back to this later because that's the one song where I really want to figure out who's doing what on guitar, and so if we can get to that later, it would be great. Number 6 for you, Timo.
It's actually Get Close, and I have a bit of a story about that one because when you pitched this idea of us having like a roundtable and doing a ranking, that was like not quite a week ago or something. It was maybe in the last thirds of my list actually, but then as I played along to it and actually did the drum replacement video, I warmed up to it, and I think this warm-up process is still ongoing. I mean, the album is so young. We would maybe need to repeat this ranking 1 year from now or something, and then 20 years. It's actually quite a cool groove. Yeah, as I said, I'm still in the process of warming up to it. I love the sax solo. It's so great. Boy,
Amazing.
I don't actually know the guy James King, but he sounds as the same way as Sonny Rollins did on the solos on Tattoo You, which is maybe one of the biggest compliments I could give, speaking about the saxophonist. So.
Jazz lines. That as a guitar player, I always tell people to try to, and Robin Ford, I don't know if you ever heard of him. Try to play like a horn player, because
right.
You're not going to sound like a horn, but you're not going to sound like every other guitar guy.
Yeah.
And play the same cliches. Try to play horn lines. They have to breathe. And therefore, because they have to breathe, they have to create a line, a phrase.
By the way, Scott, I love that you played along to the Sonny Rollins solo on Neighbors, I think. Didn't you do a video about
one of my least watched videos. Thank you. I worked hard on that.
I know.
It's really hard on that.
It's really hard stuff. Yeah, sure.
And the outside line, that bit where it goes, just plays outside the key.
Wow.
It's incredible.
I will absolutely learn that on trumpet one day.
It's wild. And I had to I'm still not sure exactly what he does there.
Yeah.
I had two guys who can play, a keyboard guy and another guitar guy, and they both had different ideas of what was happening in there. Like one guy thought it was play around doing microtones, and another guy thought just descending in flat fifths like an old jazz horn player. So I'm not sure, but the fact that Sonny Rollins could just do that, like he's breathing, and what a cat, right? One of the cats.
Requires at least 1 year of practicing all night long on Williamsgatesburg Bridge. What it's called? The future Sonny Rollins Bridge in New York. That's great guy.
He does it in Slave too. There's a wild outside line in Slave. It almost sounds like it's drifting away. You know, they did something with it in the mix. It's like, whoa, what is happening?
I'm actually in the process of rediscovering Tattoo You because I always underestimated the album. And I'm really getting to know it better and loving it more and more. It's such a cool album. Wow.
Yeah. In that case, we should all get together again and talk about Tattoo You in the future. That'd be fun.
Why not?
Rank that one.
Sure.
Yeah, number 6 for me is Tell Me Straight. I think this is one of Keith's best ones in a long time. I think on any other album, this would have been a very, I didn't know this was a riff going way back, Scott, so that's news to me. But I could have seen this song be one of the many that in that very slow, laid back, after hours vibe, like a Thief in the Night or Losing My Touch or something. I mean, I don't know if it could have because it's a specific riff. It's a very dissonant sound, so maybe it always was meant to be this beefy. But I love the energy of it. Apparently, he worked with Matt Clifford. Apparently, he said he and Matt Clifford kind of built the song up. It was their help together. I remember him reading, at least early stages. I forget which article now, but I'll correct it later. It was a text if I was wrong. But yeah, so no, I enjoyed the lyrics here. I enjoyed, it almost sounded like it could have come off Talk Is Cheap to me.
Yeah.
It kind of is. Steve Jordan, on drums. I don't hear Ronnie too much. But it's Keith on bass, which is nice. I love that Keith is on bass on many tracks on the album. But yeah,
Nick's harmony vocal annoys me a little bit.
Oh, really? I thought that was a nice moment, like Sweethearts Together or something.
Yeah, and it's more appropriate on that one. And the worst, he's beautiful on the worst.
Yeah.
Yep.
This one just like strains a little bit.
Is it the word true that he says at the end?
Yeah.
I know.
Depending on you.
Hey, girls, do you want to fight? Yeah.
Hey, we say this with affection.
Right. Absolutely. So that's...
By the way, it says here, Matt Clifford Rhodes. I didn't spot that anywhere in the mix.
What's that now?
Matt Clifford apparently plays Rhodes.
Okay, yeah.
Fender Rhodes?
Sorry?
Yeah. Fender Rhodes.
Is it Fender Rhodes?
Yeah, apparently. Okay. I couldn't spot it in the mix yet.
There's definitely Keith playing some piano.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely him.
That classic, This Place Is Empty.
Yeah.
Yeah, that riff, that classic.
Rob's Blind.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Okay, moving on to number 5. This time, let's start with Timo. Timo, what is your number 5 on the list?
Surprise. Tell me straight.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, as I said earlier, I love it being not so much overstated. It's like this really, really short, maybe even shortest duration-wise Stones ballad ever. Yeah, it's a really, as you say, like this. I love this after hours vibe that Keith is really just an expert at it. And yeah, as we said also earlier, Steve Jordan is not only he not only can be like a really strong powerhouse, he also can like be very subtle and deliver like a drumming behind it and not overdo it, but still have like this strong backbeat that really sticks to it. And yeah, it's great. It's beautiful. I'm really looking forward to play to that.
Yeah, well, it's just funny because you're making me wonder or remind me that the album is such a dynamic album. It's got a lot of peaks and valleys with dynamics, which is nice because from the start of it, you think, oh God, is it going to be this intense the whole way through? But the album also works in extremes. Everything, if it's going to be big, it's fucking huge. If it's small, it's going to be Rolling Stone blues, just a guitar, 2 guys. So it's a very polar opposites in a way from song to song. So no, I think that's a great point.
Sure.
Number 5, Scott, what do you got?
My Sweet Sound of Heaven.
Top 5, huh?
Yeah, made my top 5. I think it really is an inspired piece of work. I like Mick's lyrics. They're kind of like he's written in the gospel style before, like with Out of Focus, From Wandering Spirit, Shine a Light, obviously. But this is kind of like humanistic gospel. Like he's very defiantly saying, I'm not going to die and I'm not going to stop enjoying life. And that's kind of it was kind of a cool lit for him to be 80 years old now. He's like, I'm not going to apologize for being who I am. So, and the song just really has like we've talked about before, a lot of great elements, crescendo, the restart, cool stuff.
Yeah, no, I think the album is peppered with moments of Mick being revealing and vulnerable in
Here and there.
areas. Yeah, here and there. Yeah. And this song in particular, because I mean, I think that line really, poked at me and said, I'm not gonna die in some motel.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be this romantic rock star death.
Right.
Like dying at 27 and becoming this mythical figure. It's like, nope, I'm gonna stick around. I'm gonna drink wine and eat the bread.
Eat the bread.
Wow, that really to me that turns my opinion of the song a little bit more, and so it's fantastic to hear that. Yeah, I love that. My number 5 is Angry. I think it's catchy as hell. I think it reminds everyone the best of the Stones, even though it's hard to decipher who's playing what, which, I guess who cares?
Yeah.
But,
Or what is playing?
Is it AI, Timo? Is that who's playing?
Oh, wow. Let's not get into that.
Yeah, exactly. Or hologram stones. So anyway, we've talked about that song in great lengths before, and Angry, it's been around for a while, and it's a catchy song. So number 4, Timo, what do you got?
Sorry, I forgot my list here. It's here again. Bite My Head Off.
Wow. Up there, huh?
I can't wait for your Charlie version of that.
Wow. Yeah, that's going to be...
That's so true. What do you like about it, Timo?
Let's get into it.
Just energy? Yeah. Is it that Paul is there? Is it that it reminds you of classic Stones in some other way?
Maybe. Yeah, it's got this really strong drive.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if they had... It's maybe like in tempo wise, it's in the same league as Flip the Switch on Bridges, and I don't think that they had such a fast one on A Bigger Bang, but I might be mistaken here. But even if they did, it's like this smash and grab in your face kind of vibe. Doesn't really depend too much on the tempo, probably.
I do think that Steve, I say that I would like to hear Charlie play, but Steve does a tremendous job on that song.
Yeah, he sure does. Yeah, and I mean the guests, but I love the fuzz space of Paul McCartney here. It's really cool.
Yeah. So just the way it comes in, literally the first 3 notes of it landing into, I'm already like, let's go. It kind of just sings down. It's very fun.
I'm actually not that big of a fan of the lyrics, by the way, but it's a.
Well, Scott loves them.
It's all about the energy. Yeah, he's our guy.
Number 4, right? We're on. That's for me. Depending on You, I think it's one of their best ballads to date, and the lyrics I think are very poignant. And so, Depending on You is one of the 2 or 3 songs, I forget now, that Andrew Watt co-wrote with them, which is ridiculous. I mean, if that's the case, let's bring in some more Ronnie, huh? Before we get to other guys. But I'm just a sucker for the poignancy of this song. I mean, the lyric, I invented the game, I lost like a fool, I'm too young for dying and too old to lose.
I love that line. Wow.
That's just to me like what you were saying, Scott, before, like for Mick for Mick Jagger to sing about this, for Mick Jagger for him to use the word old, and for him to use the word die.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, fuck, like, holy shit.
Wait. Don't jinx it.
Oh yeah, I know. You're right. For dying, all that stuff. But for him to just bring up these ideas is a huge thing, and for it to kind of go past people, I think would be a shame, because when you want it, everyone's saying, "Oh, I wish the Stones could talk and sing about more, mature things." Well, here you go. So, and I think the intro is also very 60s to me. It sounds like I got little touches of like a Ruby Tuesday or something. There's the little high notes of it coming in. It's very intricate, like a 60s track is, but then it's obviously very country flavored. So I thought the emotion of the song was very big, and I couldn't help but be swept away with it all. So I'm a sucker for that.
My 4 is Dreamy Skies, which we
oh right,
you don't have to. We can keep moving, but to me, it's like a country version of The Storm. Again, I mentioned that B-side. Keith's playing is very similar. What he's doing, finger picking open G, not doing open G big riff, but finger picking. And I've criticized Mick's manneristic singing, but for this one, he sells it well. I even like when he sings about the bark of a fox.
Yeah.
Who don't know? To me, I'm right there with him. He does a good job on that.
I think Mick should do some children's books. I think that would be nice too.
The guy is personality plus, man.
Yeah, maybe doing a voiceover on the Charlie Parker children's book.
Oh, that'd be fun. That'd be a nice comedy.
Wow. Well, Bernard Fowler already did that one. So.
Oh, right. I missed Bernard a little bit on the sound, by the way.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
Bernard does a good job.
Yeah, of course he does.
He's great.
Arranging, like How Can I Stop? Arranging those background vocals. Anybody see my baby?
I didn't know he arranged How Can I Stop, because that's a gorgeous, like a gospel soul thing.
Wow.
He has a lot to do with those vocals, I think.
Gorgeous. Top 3, here we go. Now, Timo, starting with you again.
Sweet Sense of Heaven. I have on my It's probably, if I had to do like a top 3 of Stones album, then it's for sure gonna be maybe 2 like up-tempo tracks. Holding up rank 1 and 2, which I will tell you about later. But yeah, what can you say against such a thunderous big? What is it? What is it even? It's not a ballad. It's not a rocker. It's yeah. It's like going to a gospel place on Sunday morning. they put it really funnily on Swiss radio the other day.
Oh, did they? Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were really keen on it. Praised it in the highest tones. Sorry?
The 5-minute version, I bet.
I can't really say, because I'm just saying what my mother told me when she heard it. It's not at all my favorite station. They are playing too many like really bad pop records. But every so often, if Rolling Stones or somebody else in this league release something, they would definitely air it at some point. But yeah, hey, yeah. I mean, this is like also featuring like a featuring heaven of all the greatest. I mean, I'm not the biggest Lady Gaga expert maybe, but I'd say it's probably the best vocal performance that I've heard from her so far, even after sorry,
she's never sung this way before,
right?
Like,
yeah.
So yeah,
because I actually watched A Star Is Born. Great, right?
Needs to be on movie.
Yeah, sure. Nothing against it, but it's just the performance here. It's something else. That must have been a magical moment in the studio, and also being backed obviously by Stevie Wonder. It's It doesn't get any better than that.
I wish there was some more Stevie on it, to be honest. Like, I want to hear more.
Yeah, sure. But I love how he comes in like with playing. He's teasing with some piano riff when the song comes up again.
Yeah.
After it fades out, like the appendix he read it, and then the roads.
Moog. When he hears,
Well,
like, I want to hear more of that Moog.
Yeah, sure. It's more great. Wow.
I love hearing Mick in that moment invite Steve, like, give me some more Stevie, play a little something Stevie, which, it's a nice thing to hear, but also I think Mick needs that, give me some more of those flavors, and then off he's running. So, no, it's a classic.
He was like that with Mick Taylor too, way back in the day. Come on, like they would come off each other melodically.
That's a great connection.
Maybe a short comment about like the powerfulness of the song. I really had a hard time when I rewatched my like Charlie Watts impersonation, whatever you want to call it. I mean, yeah, I've told you that just in my interview. It's sometimes really hard to imagine Charlie Watts playing on something that's maybe a new sound of the band that has never been there before. Even now, when watching back my performance, I might think it's a bit too heavy. Yeah, maybe going into the direction of Keith Richards, like taking a piece on John Bonham and saying it's too heavy. That's I will never have like the definite answer. What would Charlie have played on that track? But it sure would be so interesting to hear.
Yeah,
it's a really heavy riff in such a slow tempo that wasn't really Charlie's world, in my opinion. Or I at least I didn't often hear him do this kind of stuff. So yeah.
I got the blues, maybe the closest kind of thing. Sticky Fingers and that slow. Yeah.
There's another guy who did a drum cover. I think his name is Alex Garza. Not quite sure. I can put a link in the description later, in the comments later. He actually did a straight Exile on Main Street style drum cover of that. It's quite different than mine because I tried to like have the 2019 Charlie Watts drum sound, obviously, and he had a really quite different kit and just recorded with the phone, but it actually is closer to this Exile on Main Street drum sound compared to my 4-channel setup and mixing it all digitally. Yeah, it's actually quite cool. So that also goes into the direction of I Got the Blues. Or what did you say before, Sky?
Yeah, I got the blues.
Yeah. That's a different thing.
I'd love to hear that. Make sure you post that, Timo, his version of that Exile kind of vibe.
Sure, I will. Yeah.
My number 3 is Rolling Stone Blues. I absolutely love that this exists. I think it's just for me a strong performance because I can't. I'm a guitar player, so I love blues. I love attempting to play it, but I find Keith's part to be kind of tricky because he's I find to be balancing the heavy rhythm, and I'm trying to imagine those hands do this work, and it seems to me that between the heavy guitar work and the intricate fills that he's doing, I wouldn't be able to do it in one take live.
I think they had to. That old guitar, the action was really high apparently, so they had to tune it a whole step down and capo it for him to play it, so it would be a little easier.
Wow.
A guitar player will understand. If the action's too high, you're not going to be able to pull that stuff.
Oh, that'd be hell to build. And apparently Andrew Watts said this was take 5 of 6 or maybe 6 of 7.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear just all the takes of it. Just print it. I think also this cherry on top is Mick really channeling fantastic Muddy Waters stuff. To hear his voice go really down.
Low, he gets down there, yeah.
Oh, he gets those corners. He's in the basement of his voice, and I have never heard him sing that way. And again, this album is all of extremes. I mean, if we had to get through 11 other songs to get a performance like this from Mick, fine, whatever. 'Cause I don't know if he would have indulged us or himself in any other circumstance with a performance like this, because he really dives in without pretending, and I think it's such a natural sound. So I'm very impressed with that.
Number three is Get Close, which I think is a Keith-driven thing. Wish we had more of it. It's kind of an unusual Keith riff. It's not the obvious kind of 1/4 move, even though he does play. It's in this family of Keith riffs like Struggle, Too Tight, with E, C, B minor, A minor, G. It's in that family, but the way this is constructed is unusual, and I think mix lyrics and the force that he sings with is, I mean, he's like it's not just low, it's like throaty. Like there's no way he'll be able to sing this live in the same way without completely shredding his voice. So I dig it. And the sax solo kind of comes out of nowhere. The way the song before the sax solo, there's a little echo on Mick's voice. It's like, woo. I like that. That was a nice.
A lot of percussion as well there. It's
yeah. So there's a lot of elements in there, and that one gives me all the right feels.
I brought up earlier, Scott, and I don't know how much a big deal I want to make out of it, but can you have a through line with other material in their catalog that is connected to this? Because this seems to be such an outlier, which could be a good thing, but do you hear things that are familiar to you here?
I'm just riff-wise, it's Hold Back, Struggle, Too Tight.
Yeah.
It's in that family. But the way that the beat is underneath him is unusual.
And composition-wise and melody-wise and all that stuff and chord-wise, also those songs, I mean, to me, I hear the opening riff definitely part of that, you know.
It's that B minor, A minor, G, that is in, that's in a lot. Wanna Hold You.
Yeah, right.
Like that song.
So it's in that family, but it's not completely just a recycling of those things. It occupies its own little corner. I've never heard anything quite like this track from the Stones. It's unusual, and that pleases me.
Nice. Well put. I think now we're up to number 2 then. Timo, would you like to go up for number 2?
Whole Wide World is for me. I got it after the intro. It's there are some spots on this record that Steve Jordan really nails down the Charlie Watts style, and this intro is one. And yeah, I would love to interview him and ask him about the Chinese symbol, which is such an important part to the Charlie Watts sound since '78, basically. And there he really went for it, and he normally only uses it as an effect symbol on some of the endings or stuff. Also live, it's more of an effect thing for him. But there he really went for it and hit it on the one, and it's such a great energy, and I love tempo, the drive. Yeah. Oh yeah. Also, sorry.
The accent is what kills me on this.
Well,
I think of the movie A Clockwork Orange when I hear this song.
Any ultra violence?
Yeah, exactly. They all have that accent there. I'm not that angry. The movie, the album isn't that angry. It's Clockwork Orange level, but the accent. I mean.
All right. Yeah. I don't have actually that strong ears for these kinds of stuff. Yeah. I gotta love the running solo on that one. That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
And I love, speaking of that, I love that I don't know if they needed, but Andrew Watt had an ear for it. Well, let's add a little effect to it. Let's add a little something to it.
Yeah. Well, I like it. I think they do a good job with that.
Me too. I think throughout the album, he's like, let's add this, let's add that to it, add this pedal or whatever the hell they're doing. And I think it always worked. And I think it's a nice change of pace because things could get a little dry, you know.
Yes, like they do live.
Yes, exactly. Scott, what do you have for your number 2?
What was your number? My number 2 was Depending on You. Depending on You is my number 2. I think this is their best ballad since Almost Here You Sigh. And I love, like, just to get going into this project, I would have predicted that I was not going to like what Andrew Watt brought, and I was going to think that the Charlie Watts tracks are the best. I thought there was going to be more Charlie, period, and less Steve.
We all did.
So for me to see the Andrew Watt gets a co-write and Steve's on all the tracks except for 2, I was going to be like, and I didn't like the titles when they were first revealed. I was like, my heart sank. It's like, these titles suck. Mess it up. Are you kidding me? Anyway. So,
wait till you hear it.
But then, yes, you have to hear it. You don't want to jump to conclusions, but this ballad is, I wish that there was more Andrew Watt. I think apparently brought ballads and he's like, Andrew Watt's like, nope, let's write one from scratch. And that's what Mick Jagger, he needs more of that. Somebody to tell Mick Jagger, no. That's what Rick Rubin, I think you can write better lyrics. And that's what he needs. That's what every great big ego needs, is somebody to tell him no. Not out of defiance or stubbornness, but no, I think you can do better. And as far as this might sound blasphemous, but like if there were 10 more Jagger, Richards, Watt co-writes, like we really could have had the best album since Tattoo You. Like I think he really brought great things out of and Keith is very present. Like I think the chorus, that G, A minor, I think it might have been him. And I think it might be Andrew Watt playing that Moonlight Miles type thing in the intro. It's possible because he's credited with playing guitar, I think, on this album. So I like what he brought to the table a lot in this track especially.
Yeah, I think I saw a picture of them, all guitars, and made me wonder, is that a picture of them working?
And you can hear him singing, Andrew Watt.
Oh, okay.
His background, the vocal stacks that Mick talks about, is Andrew Watt. He's got a good voice too.
Okay. Didn't know that.
Yeah, I wish I could come up with more details. It's hard to come up with details in the album.
Right.
I've been describing it as like you're at front row at an IMAX movie. It's just so big, and it's hard to discern what's going on. So, which is tough because that's one of the best things about a Stones album are the details. And so it's hard to pick them out on all the songs. But I got to look out for Andrew Watt's vocal. No, I'm with you. I think it's a strong effort. And I think that would be interesting if they do more with Andrew Watt, what the rest of that would sound like. I think maybe that's probably why Keith may have respected Andrew Watt a little bit, because he would say no to Mick. And I think that's always points for Keith.
Yeah. And I think Andrew was an advocate for Keith. It's throughout maybe not bringing more Keith ideas in, but like, no, get his part in there before Mick starts singing and taking up even more space.
Right.
So, yeah.
I heard Mick wanted even to steal the ballad. What's it called?
Yeah. And Andrew was like, no F1.
For the best reasons.
Yeah, no, that would have been good thing Keith held his ground. My number 2 is everyone's favorite, Mess It Up. I think this is, I mean, Lord Almighty, Scott, just blast it in the car, have a drink, have a smoke, and just let loose, because I'm probably projecting a lot into this because it is a Charlie track, and out of the 2 Charlie tracks, this one really just soars for me. The moment he comes on, and even Keith says, the moment you hear him, you know who the hell it is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's just, to me, I mean, everyone could say it's the Stones I know, but the Stones have so many facets to them and so many coins to them that I love. To me, I think they finally perfected that rock dance song with this track.
Oh yeah.
Which I don't know if that's a good thing or not, because I don't know what other songs would come on it. But to me, like, this comes in the line of "Look What the Cat Dragged In," which is like,
I don't like that song. The
Yeah.
warmed over in excess riff.
yeah, right. But Mick's attempt to, like, oh, can we have one song on the album that's gonna do what the pop thing? And on Bridges of Babylon, this track "Mess Up" would have sounded like Anybody Seen My Baby. It would have been the very pop heavy song, the dancey, ready for the club mix. On the album, it would have stuck out. I think so. Nevertheless, I think it's Ronnie Wood on bass, and I do hear some Keith on the left. I thought there wasn't any Keith there, but he's there in short bursts.
Yeah, it's hard to tell whether it's Keith or Mick.
Yeah, or Andrew Watt again. I'd say I don't know if he's on guitar. But to me, it's irresistible. I think how can you not like Mick's falsetto? It's just like, there's the guy. Hey, buddy. Like, it's just good to hear the band cooking, and it makes me in a good mood. And that's what the other side of the Stones is, that they make you want to move around. And so that's what I have to say about that. All righty. So here we are at the top song of the album.
Reach the summit.
We sure have. Timo, what do you got for your number one?
Well, it's going to be Mess It Up. Speaking of.
Wow.
Yeah, I find it interesting. You see the parallel to Anybody See My Baby. For me, it's more like a similar sound to Keith Love from the Licks sessions from 20 years ago when he did 40 Licks. Those cuts for that album. Yeah.
Oh, Keith, oh, interesting. Yeah, right. I see what you mean.
Yeah, hard to describe it. Yeah, I mean, it's catchy as hell. It's probably that, and it was so interesting for me to finally, after all these years, hear like a fine Charlie track on a studio recorded thing, which isn't necessarily like they for sure are in a quite different mood playing live. That's no question about that. And yeah, basically the last true original Rolling Stones album is from 2005, and Charlie Watts, rest in peace, bless his heart. He also in this very long time, until when did they cut the drum track on that one? Back in 19 probably. That's a really long time. It's 14 odd years where we didn't really have a proper like this. Yeah, he speaks about
Doom and Gloom. I did not like the way Charlie sounded on that two tracks.
That actually on the radio edit, it was a freaking drum sample, and it's the biggest freaking blasphemy that could ever have happened to this band. And only if you go through this really miserable compilation called Girl Stuff. At the end of it, there's the two newer tracks back then. It was the other one was called One More Shot, I think, which is like a Street Fighting Man version 2 something. But there, the drum track is definitely Charlie, and I have no idea why they would ever replace something like that. It was a drum sample in the radio. That's the stupidest decision they could do. Yeah,
but you didn't tell me now you know. That's how that
probably. Yeah, that's like the same blasphemy as Sting trying to remove Stuart Copeland's drum tracks from Synchronicity. That's wow. Yeah. One thing I noticed about Charlie's playing is it's more kind of round than the playing on A Bigger Bang. It's they talk in those terms like something like mix the rock and the roll, and I think for the rhythm section of this band, it's always like either it's always a mixture. It's like keeping a balance between those two aspects and those two kind of moods. He really went for the 16th. I think it's Yeah, he usually has like this signature drum fill where he would and this particular song, it's more of like it's more fluid. It's going it's even he perfected the bounce.
Yeah, his left foot is good in there. I always love his left.
Yeah, it's I would love to still make a version of my own of the two Charlie tracks, maybe just as an experiment, or try to impersonate Steve George as Justin suggested. I don't know. Hey, yeah, for me, it's also the guitar work rhythmically. It's not it. Well, it's for maybe for you, Scott. It's something that yeah, is just something that's too mainstream or whatever. But
It really, 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 really tries too hard for me.
yeah,
I see what you did there.
yeah, sure, but yeah, rhythmically, it's so cool. It's not the basic thing. I think it's Ronnie on the right channel. I might be mistaken, but
Oh, Ronnie almost rescues the track for me.
oh wow, yeah, he does this thing like it's not it's syncopated, but then when you most expect another syncope, he hits it right on the one. And it's so cool.
And he's on the original clip that Mick posted to social media when this was called "Really Want to Tell the Truth." This was years ago, where we got a snippet of this song.
Yeah, that was that song, right? Because I thought about that video when I heard it for the first time in the final version, but that was that.
Yeah. Instead of "Really Want to Tell the Truth," it's "Really Want to Hear It." So they kind of turned it around a little bit. But when I first saw that clip, I was like, "Oh God, don't please don't let that make the album."
Well, different tastes. But it's also very cool to have such a like a dancey, bouncy song. It's really a party song basically. But
I love danceable Rolling Stones.
yeah, sure. But for it to have like this C section, so no, the C section is that's
no, it is a C section. It is.
yeah.
That's the best part of the song.
That's not something you would expect in a song released today. That's quite cool. It really gives like it's almost like a second chorus or something.
Yeah.
No, I love it. It's hooks everywhere you look. So I love that. I love that spot for you, Scott. What do you have as your top one then?
My number one is "Driving Me Too Hard," which it got me right away. I know it's tumbling dice in the intro, but it doesn't stay there. To me, this is the ideal Keith-driven song with a Ronnie Wood's B-bender guitar.
Yeah.
You guys know the B-bender contraption that he plays, "I Go Wild," "Sparks Will Fly." It's that contraption that you bend on the strap, and it kind of mimics a pedal steel guitar.
Wow, I've never heard of that. Okay.
Yeah, B-bender. It was invented in the early 70s by this guy, Clarence White, and Gene Parsons. I think they were both in the Byrds. And it's just a way to make your 6-string guitar sound like a pedal steel. And Ronnie plays that on live on Tumbling Dice now, and he just owns that. He just owns it. And every note he plays on this track is beautiful, gorgeous B-bender guitar. I love Keith's harmony. He just kind of floats in, weaves in underneath Mick. And I criticize Mick lyrics a lot on this album. And these lyrics are simple, but the way that he phrases them, they sit in the pocket so beautifully with the melody. So this one, it's just this is the way the Rolling Stones should sound to me. The way they should write, with Keith and Mick kind of 50-50. It's not too much this, not too much that. It's the two of them. And that's why this one gets the crown for me.
I was thinking about that song a lot more because that song has continued to warm up to me. And I wondered how much of the song, rubbed me a certain way because of it's on this album where the album has such a certain flavor and a certain intensity, it might kind of, I don't know, stick out or whatever. So I wonder on any other album I would have probably fall head over heels for it. But on this album, it's sort of like, oh, you miss the energies a little off. But that's what's great. It's a very laid back, yet it's got some direction to it. But you're right, 50-50. Those are the best ones. With that being said, my number one is Whole Wide World. Yes, that's Cockney accent and all. I think the song threw me for a loop, but I think it packs a huge punch. I think it's super interesting sound. It's a very dark and mysterious riff that Keith puts in. I love the fact that that Mick explained that Keith had a hand in chopping the verse up. Apparently, Mick's version was a bit longer or something, and Keith went in there and said, "No, you should cut it in half and chop up the structure of the song a bit," and so that made it a bit more, as Mick called it, funky, whatever that means. So I it's funny because Mick also described the song as a tongue-in-cheek uplifting song, specifically using the word tongue-in-cheek, which I don't know why or how it could be tongue-in-cheek. I think the message of the song is wonderful, and I think the lyric at the end, that life's just hit and run, which is such a, again, you don't hear Mick talking about these kind of things. And I think it kind of left me affected by that, the idea that, here they are telling us, it's all about keep going, and, don't stop for long because you got to move on to the next thing, and hit and run. That I could see now why it could have been an option for an album title like he suggested. So, so this song was a winner for me, and I think very interesting. And,
it was hard for me to get past, again, all the titles on this album. When they were first revealed, I had a bad feeling. But this title in particular is one I couldn't get past. It's like that phrase should not cross your lips unless you are talking to a child or a pet.
What phrase again?
The whole wide world. That phrase, you must be talking to your toddler or your dog. Your dog, my dog is the best boy in the whole wide world. My golden retriever. That's it. No, you're never allowed to use that phrase. Another concept.
Well, maybe it was a song for Devin. What's his name? Devereaux?
Maybe.
Devereaux. Yeah.
He does have a small trap. Yes.
Did you guys see the video of him dancing?
That was that Timo?
Did you see the video of his youngest son Devereaux dancing? Oh shit,
he's got it.
Yeah, sure,
he's definitely got it.
It's that mix of DNA, right?
Yes, exactly.
He's got a kid younger than my kids, which is pretty wild.
I have guitars older than that. Okay, so that was our ranking. It was very interesting and fun. I love that. To be honest, I now want to re-rank my list after talking to you guys. So let's do that right now. Number 12, I'm going with.
Yeah, let's do it. But we're like they were completely inverted. Yours and you two and mine, which is interesting.
Which is why I want to re-rank them, because now that I've gotten what you guys like about other songs, it got me to go, oh well, yeah, I totally see that. And even as I was preparing it this morning, I wanted to change things around. I have this. It got me thinking as I was going through the album. Many years ago, Mick was talking about how his writing process is. I can tell when I'm writing and something is going to be a Mick song, a song for myself that's not right for the Stones, or a song that's going to be for the Rolling Stones. And an example is on this album, "Mess It Up." I believe he said that he had it prepared because some DJ wanted a song or something back in the day, and he played it for Don Was, or Don Was heard a bit of it, and Don Was said, "That's not your song. That's a Stones song. Make sure you got to make that a Stones song." So it got me thinking, what is Mick's antenna like for what he's writing? What do you suppose, judging by these songs? Can you tell what it is about a Stones song that is a Mick solo song and is properly in that lane, and what makes a Stones song and what should go in that lane? Do these songs tell any insight into that at all?
I don't know. There's no hard and fast rules. Like when he's writing, I don't think. I mean, when he came up with England Lost and got to get a grip, and evidently Keith's like, that ain't Stones. Put them out yourself, and he did. So generally, I think if it's just so pop, that is gonna trigger his thinking. Like, even though I think a solo song like "Sweet Thing" from Wandering Spirit is very pop, but you could still, the Stones might still do that, something like that,
because it's funky.
Yeah. So, but gosh, like, think of Goddess in the Doorway. Man, there's so that album is an abomination in many ways.
What did Keith call it? Dog shit in the doorway.
Yeah, right.
It's very ungenerous, but I can take songs like that. Gun.
Yeah. It's a cool performance by Pete Townsend on that, though. I kind of like that as a feeling. But there aren't many songs on there that you could confuse for a Stones song. Although Hideaway sounds like a Miss You cousin. Ba-da-dow-dow-dow-dow.
Yeah.
But
Everybody Getting High.
Oh, yeah, I don't know what that's supposed to be.
It's just so. It's got to drive. Oh, we know it drives Keith absolutely crazy. Like, dude, you're Mick Jagger. You're Mick Jagger. Why? Why are you doing this? I don't know. I would love to sit down with him and ask him myself, like, why?
Ask him why. Nice to meet you, Sir Mick. Why?
Why?
Why? You know, I got to ask you guys this question because a friend of mine asked me this the other day, and I thought it was a fun little experiment. On this particular album, if you were to take away Mick's vocals, is this still a Stones album? Shout out to my friend David who asked this question, who suggests that he's skeptical that it would still be a Stones album, even if you take away Mick Jagger's vocals on all of these songs. Does this album sound like the Stones still, or does it sound like other things going on? Where do you find that?
I would say if you'd take anybody of the four guys out, it's not really the Stones anymore. Although I'm accepting the fact that obviously Charlie is not with us anymore, unfortunately, and Steve Jordan is really doing a great job of filling this spot, really. But yeah, as you pointed out earlier on another video, it's just this strange kind of concept in the air of a new era. For me, a large part of that is first of all, the new drummer, obviously, and a completely different producer. But still, I find myself to really enjoy all the ingredients you have. Mick Jagger's voice, blazingly nice Ronnie Wood solo on Whole Wild World, for example. I think it depends on all these ingredients. I wouldn't necessarily call it a Stones album if it were a completely different single.
You can just subtract Mick Jagger's voice as though that's even a conceivable notion, because that's pretty important to what the Stones sound like.
Yeah,
it's kind of like saying, if you take the tires off of this car, is it going to be a car anymore? Like, yeah, I guess it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And what is a wheel alone and the steering wheel alone? Yeah, it's a combination of the thing that makes it even bigger and has a higher purpose. Yeah,
it's kind of important to have Mick Jagger.
Yeah, sure.
And he sounds terrific on this album. Even when he's singing bad lyrics that make me cringe, he sounds good. So, well, I had trouble getting over the fact that Bill Wyman was gone a long time. So if I had a problem with any of this, I got over it at some point in the last 30 years. Like Bill Wyman, I think, is an essential part of their set. The way they sounded, Bill and Charlie. So
he was, to me, Wyman had that bounce to him, and you call it a burp, is it? When you call it
gulp, like a swallow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was acid reflux. Is that what it was? Yeah. Nice.
It's multi.
And I kind of got a glimpse of that in Keith's playing as a little bit on like Angry, for example.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely.
I think he kind of played like Will sometimes.
What was that?
You look like Brand New Car on Voodoo Lounge, Brand New Car, which it's not a great song, but Keith's bass playing is terrific.
He plays bass? You didn't know that?
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
And in fact, Daryl did interviews after, because he played on everything else. And he's like, that's one of my favorite bass lines of the album. And I'm like,
I'm forgetting the bass. I love that track, actually. And is that Wawa's?
Wow.
And Mick is on Wawa.
Oh, Mick is on Wawa, just like on Suck on the Juggler, your other favorite.
Yeah, it says here Keith Wawa. A Brand New Car you're talking about?
Okay. Suck on the Juggler is Mick Wawa. But Keith does play the bass from Brandon.
You're right.
Right.
Fantastic bass line.
I listen.
The great thing about Bill Wyman bass lines is that they're in the pocket. Obviously, they're following the chord progression, but they obey their own logic.
Yep.
It's within
How would you explain that? Obey your own logic.
It's like he's not just playing on the beats in a very obvious, put it this way, most guitar players, 9 out of 10, when they pick up a bass, they play it like they play guitar. They play bass like a guitar player. Bill Wyman played bass like a bass player.
Almost like an upright bass, too, the way he angled it, right?
Yeah, but just where he lays in, it's very melodic. And I point to the verses of Mixed Emotions. Go listen to Mixed Emotions. You hear these gulpy little thumps that land in strange places that nobody else would play that way. Nobody.
He also does these cool counter melodies, right? Even on the really early stuff, Satisfaction, is that
Did you guys see the Howard Stern interview with Keith?
Yeah, I got it from there.
Howard Stern talked about Paul Simon, saying you got to ask him about Bill Wyman's bass, the bass line of Satisfaction. And Keith, that's Bill Wyman, baby. That's all I told him was it's got to go from E to A. And however you get there.
So cool.
And that's Wyman.
I love it. In the last couple of tours, they've really honed in getting that intro almost exactly like the record now. In fact, they're performing Satisfaction like close to the record now. Mick is actually singing the song in the best form of that word, singing.
And Steve is bringing back the 4 hits of the snare, which I don't like. I like the way Charlie played it. I like the way Charlie reinvented the last time.
Yeah.
In 1997. I thought that was awesome.
I did too.
No problem there at all.
So how do you guys, speaking of going to, you've got Voodoo Lounge in front of you, Timo.
Sure.
How do you rank Hackney Diamonds among the later albums, starting from, I guess we'd have to Steel Wheels on? How does this rate to you? Is this, the best since Steel Wheels, or what?
I lean towards saying it's, for me, in between Voodoo Lounge on the first rank and Bridges, which would be the number 3 then. But the problem is I have a bad time comparing Bridges with Hackney Diamonds because it's a far longer album, actually, isn't it? And it breathes in longer bits of time, so you get this really sentimental and really low key parts on Bridges, and a really different mood on ballads, for example, like How Can I Stop? And yeah, I mean, how would you compare an album which is 3 Keith Richards on lead vocal songs with an album that has just one that's even under 3
Yeah.
Yeah, but quality wise, it's maybe second to best for me, right after Voodoo Lounge.
Wow. Yeah, Bridges is still my top favorite.
Okay.
Always be.
Well, I would change my opinion in like half a year maybe.
Of course,
yeah.
I get it. Scott, how would you think it's an appropriate addition to the catalog, or?
Oh yeah, I'm glad. I'm very happy that they made it. I wish that they had made one more, at least one more between. But it's better than A Bigger Bang. I will say that, and I don't think that A Bigger Bang we've talked about is too long. There's too many songs, but the biggest problem with it is so undercooked. What A Bigger Bang needed was an Andrew Watt to act. When people say something is overproduced, they usually mean that it's slick or it's too radio friendly. Like some Exile on Main Street is produced. It's got horn arrangements. It's got background vocalists. It's got all these different elements. Like Loving Cup, there's a lot of going on production wise. Even though we think of Exile Main Street as being raw and gritty and authentic, it's produced. It's a produced artifact of the studio. And The Bigger Bang needed more of those elements of a studio recording. There's just too many parts that are just demo-like in their nakedness. And it needed more. I know that's what we wanted at the time, is a back to basics house type recording, but looking back on it, it just feels undercooked.
Yeah. No, I definitely would rate it above A Bigger Bang. In fact, someone commented on my review of the album that they wouldn't do that because they, quote, find A Bigger Bang to be a, quote, masterpiece, which I thought, I need to talk to you. Like, what are you? That's fantastic. I applaud that title, but like, I'd love to know what you're hearing. And I like elements of the album for sure, but I think a lot of it, I'm marred by the mastering and the mix. It's kind of so hard on the ears.
Hey, yeah, just this evening.
Yeah, Timo, you've talked about Charlie on this album.
No, I was just trying to say I just quickly compared the vinyl sound of Hackney Diamonds with I love this song. What's the second on A Bigger Bang? Let Me Down Slow.
Oh yeah, great song.
Hey, I'm so glad that they realized how important well mixed and well mastered sound is. It's Hackney Diamonds beats A Bigger Bang's sound in every aspect. It was so crushed and yeah, tight and Hackney Diamonds has so much air. It's not even mastered pretty quietly, but yeah, I don't know what their tricks are. It's still got so much air, even though it's quite a loud master. It's cool. It's great.
With that said, now that we're in this mindset of A Bigger Bang and between that and Hackney Diamonds specifically, how do you think this album would have turned out if it was produced by Andrew Watt and the Glimmer Twins? Would that be a different thing? Would some of these songs not be on here? Would some of these songs sound a different way? Would we hear more of a certain element, a certain instrument, or a certain vibe would be more or less? Any guesses as to, because I was expecting the Glimmer Twins to be on here, and I'm surprised that it was not.
Probably more of Keith's signature sound, like the telly. I don't know what do you think, Scott? But yeah, maybe you go.
That's my hunch. That's my hunch too. I think Watt ended up being an advocate for Keith, or at least that Keith and Ronnie and guitars and good. So I don't know about what Mick. I can see why Mick was excited, and enthusiastic about the way this sounded. So it's hard. I think that, I guess I mentioned earlier that the big holdup was Keith wanting to get more input. And I think Mick just sort of waited him out. essentially. I don't necessarily believe that it was just, we needed a deadline and we're being lazy. I think if Keith or Mick had said, let's do this in 2021, Keith would have been like, I'm there. I'm ready whenever you are. So Mick is excited because he got his way. Ultimately, he got his way. And Keith, there's enough of his input there, even if he didn't write a lot of it. He's still there. He's still present, and he's happy about that too. Like Andrew Watt is a big reason why the thing exists. I really, it made them both feel like they got their way.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah. I mean, I think every album is an experiment, and every album has a different way of how they get the album together. Look at, in my case, I love Bridges of Babylon. That was an experiment. And what happens when we all have different studios going and we're all just jumping from room to room and we're all kind of, it's like people like to say, 2 solo albums put together. I thought that was a very successful experiment. And I thought this experiment was another success.
Arguably 3 solo albums, because we got that, what was the Jim Calden and Charlie Watts project? It's called the record. I mean, they used all the parts and samples they basically recorded at the studio there. But yeah, that's some great material that they made them.
Man, I can't wait for that deluxe Bridges to Babylon in the year, 2073 or something. Well, as we wrap up, basically final thoughts here, but to launch into final thoughts, do you think the album, because the album is obviously getting rave reviews, do you think it's properly rated? Do you think it's overrated, underrated? I wherever you may feel it may land. But in closing, how do you see the album being received?
Timo, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think it's. Yeah, I was just thinking about a friend of mine. He's a double bassist from Zurich. He's also his main job is a music critic, culture critic for a newspaper here in Zurich. His headline of the review was the Stones didn't need to reinvent themselves. But yeah, maybe we contradicted that a bit today in this talk. But maybe he was more talking about the quality of the entire thing. He also rated it very solidly, and I can approve of that sentiment.
I think critics have been a little bit overzealous. And I can understand why. Part of it is always underrating these other albums that we actually think more highly of.
Oh yeah.
So that's just a habit of newspaper critics who don't listen to the stuff like we do. And
my friend actually does, so props to him.
Yeah, there are some who know it, and you can tell with what they write, what they say.
Yeah, sure.
You can immediately what they actually know or not. Yeah, I think that there is people have been a little bit overamped about it. But on the other hand, it is crazy that they're still able to do this at their age.
Oh yeah.
At this level. It's almost mind-boggling. Like, you almost have to step back and be like, just be thankful that it exists at all. Because nobody else at their age is playing with this kind of vitality. They're just not.
Yeah, it's the Wild West we're in right now. They're in. No one has come before them to show them the way to how to do this. How does a rock band do this 61 years into the game? Not that there aren't people who've been playing music together for 6 years, but out there who's still competing with the very best and, putting in a good fight, which says something.
Yeah, sure. And after all, it's really energetic and now like athletic kind of music. It's I mean, even at my age, I'm 28 right now. If I play this kind of music for 2 hours, I'm basically tired and dead.
And ever since the late 90s when Bob Dylan's Time Out of Mind record came out, that's the record that critics always want the Stones to make. And I actually think that late period Bob Dylan is overrated.
Whoa.
I love Time Out of Mind, but Love and Theft, a couple songs are okay. Rough and Rowdy Ways, I'm like, come on.
Modern Times is pretty darn good. Love and Theft is excellent.
Okay, it's and I love Bob Dylan. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong.
Scott, I'm getting you wrong. I don't care. I'm getting you wrong.
Late period Bob Dylan, it's like, I'm glad that they're not making that album that the critics want them to make. I'll take that.
What would that be? I'm not sure if I'm getting that.
It would sound like Nothing But Tell Me Straight. It would sound like a whole record of that, of introspective, not trying to sound radio friendly or not trying to keep up with pop or dance.
I see.
It would be just that kind of song, and all the lyrics would be serious and introspective and talking about mortality.
What do you say about that, Scott? Because a friend of mine also was like, at first, knee-jerk reaction to some of this new stuff was like, come on already. Like, you're still singing about this, women, this, that, and the other. Why don't you sing about more mature stuff? And what do you say to that?
They do some of the time, but they don't do it. He doesn't do it all of the time, and he doesn't actually live that way. He's not. People criticize Mick for being Peter Pan, eternally youthful. Well, he kind of is. Just look at the guy. Look at the way he moves.
Hey, sure.
When you see at the show at the Racket in New York City, the clip from Sweet Sounds of Heaven, he's on his knees and he gets up.
Yeah.
The average 80-year-old American is incapable of doing that. They're overweight and arthritic and can't move. And those are the types of people who want that from Mick Jagger, because they are old and arthritic and contemplating death, and they're grumpy. That's why they want that from Mick. And that's not who he is or how he lives.
To be validated.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't know. I think like Neil Young, right? It's just I'm Bruce Springsteen. You know what? He's somebody who I guess the music has grown with and matured in a way but he's different. He's a different kind of a beast, different animal. He's always been thoughtful and reflective. He can have fun on stage, goofing around, but he's always been that kind of a guy, serious-minded. So I don't know. With the Stones, it's like, why start now? Don't change now. Never change.
Right, especially when, their agenda, for lack of a better word, is fun, having a party, and you can't mix having a good time with, let's talk about death, and let's talk about mortgages.
Well, I always thought
there are songs with social commentary. I mean, Justin, you and I talked about Undercover of the Night. There are serious subject matter, but nobody credits Mick with it when he does do it. Like Blinded by Rainbows from Voodoo Lounge.
I love that song. Wow.
The IRA, terrorist bombing. That's a serious subject matter, but nobody gives him credit for that.
How about Sweet Neocon? No love for Sweet Neocon? Anyone?
Oh, no.
Yeah, that gives me the shit.
That's a subject for another day.
It gives you the shits, literally. Doesn't you think about that? That's just one line of that song. No, but Hackney Diamonds, I wanted to say before, once compared it when talking about it to a friend who didn't listen to it yet. I said it's like on Friday night you start a party with angry, right? And it grows through the different emotions. Yeah. Keith is like with Tell Me Straight. He's on Sunday morning. Yeah, like the party went through all the way from Friday night until Sunday morning, and he realizes that well, the girl didn't join me last night, so I'm waking up alone. Let's go to church right now and sing some gospel maybe, and then yeah, yeah,
That's the art.
it's a cool red line between those moods.
That's fantastic. I love that.
Yeah, but the energy is really that. It's a, for me it's kind of a party record. but still, even I wouldn't prefer a party which doesn't have at one point like joining a guy smoking a cigarette and having a serious political or a philosophical discussion. That for me belongs to like the concept of a great long night. So there's
And apparently there's songs that of the 23 that they recorded that are more socially pointed or topical or whatever that they chose not to include this time around. So, if they wait too long, that stuff is going to be dated.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, and Keith has also spoken about the older songs that you referenced earlier too, Scott. I mean, the ones that they've amassed over the years. He has referred to them as gems. There's stuff in there, so like it makes you wonder.
I believe it.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder how they're going to balance that. Is it going to Mick? I think is not. Can't imagine entertaining the idea of including any more Charlie tracks moving forward. I could see him going, no, that's a. Yeah,
I wouldn't rule that out.
Yeah, okay.
I wouldn't rule that out.
Well, it is a new Stones era.
Yeah.
Didn't I say something about having already like 60% of an even coming out already? So it would be kind of great to hear. Is that also stuff that's sometimes based on 2019 tracks, or is it all new? Yeah.
Just because they recorded these newly with Andrew Watt doesn't mean that they were brand new, like written last year. They could be several years old. The idea, I don't know. We don't know. And I think that Nick, he wouldn't care if it's Charlie or Steve necessarily. What Mick really values is it his idea. That's what he wants to record his songs. That's what he wants. And I think a lot of what they recorded with Charlie was just him. Mick, Charlie, Ronnie, and Keith is over in New York City with Steve Jordan.
Well, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the next steps are. If it's coming in a year or more, but I doubt. It seems like they have a little bit of an urgency to get things out rolling now. They have some kind of process, or they can see that there are new people involved that could help them get to this place quicker than they have been doing it in the past. So I suspect we will see things move along a bit quicker in the future.
And they're really trying to boost their streaming numbers. Because they're not in the top 100, and they should be, given their legacy. And so there was some negligence, I think, with their catalog and presenting it to young people and streaming in the United States. Like their legacy artists, like Jimi Hendrix, who are just dying, and kids who are the age of my children and younger are not going to know who Jimi Hendrix was in another generation, maybe, which is really sad. But the Stones are not going to let that happen.
Well, no, I guess I didn't know that it was that dire for Hendrix. That's really a shame. I didn't know that.
Just look at his streaming numbers on Spotify. It's just, for somebody of his importance and significance, he's right up there with Charlie Parker or
oh yeah, at least
any artist of the 20th century. He is way up there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Oh yeah. Oh, that's it. I wonder what numbers Miles Davis is pulling in. You mentioned, talk about niche market. Well, Well, okay, before we go, let's rate the album in a 5-star system. Go ahead, whoever wants to go ahead to wrap it up. I'll start. I'm giving it a 4 out of 5.
I'm 3 out of 5 for me.
4.5.
Whoa.
Round.
Watch out, Voodoo Lounge, coming for you.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. I had a great time, guys, doing this. I hope that there are more conversations to come on various topics. So I think this is just a beginning. But would you want to tell everyone where to find each of you online, where your content lives? Timo, would you like to share with that?
It lives mainly on YouTube. I put together my first and middle name, which gives you Timolex Music, and that's the name of my channel. Yeah, I'm gonna record all the remaining Steve Jordan tracks from Hackney Diamonds and put out the videos as I go. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
As am I.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm saying Scott Galupo is where my YouTube channel. That's the name of it. You can also search Keith Richards Riff Cousins.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great stuff. I'm also going to leave links in the description. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Justin.